Pacifica, this is Democracy Now!, Top Secret America. An estimated 854,000 people hold top security clearances. More than 1,200 government organizations and nearly 2,000 private companies work on programs related to counterterrorism, homeland security, and intelligence in 10,000 locations. Just some of the findings of an explosive 2-year investigation by the Washington Post on the top secret world the government created after 9/11. We'll speak with one of the co-authors of the piece, Bill Arkin. Then, what's the future of Social Security? Cuts are being proposed. There's talk of raising the retirement age to 70. We'll be joined by Dean Baker of the Center for Economic and Policy Research. All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. An oil seep near the ruptured BP wellhead in the Gulf of Mexico is casting new uncertainty over BP's temporary success in plugging the leak. Oil stopped flowing from the well on Thursday after BP successfully installed a containment cap. But U.S. officials say oil and gas has begun seeping from the sea floor, leading to fears of another hole in the well that could make the spill even worse. BP wants to keep the cap in place and has been granted additional time to conduct further tests. Earlier today, BP said the oil spill cleanup has cost nearly $4 billion so far, including $207 million to settle damage claims. Gulf Coast residents, meanwhile, are voicing outrage over news the government-administered claim fund will subtract any money they earn working for the cleanup effort from any future claims. Fund administrator Kenneth Feinberg says the ruling will apply to anyone in the Vessels of Opportunity program, which has employed hundreds of Gulf Coast residents whose livelihoods have been wiped out by the spill. A group of fishermen walked out of a public meeting Friday after Feinberg announced the decision. In Iraq, at least 45 people were killed Sunday when a suicide bomber attacked members of a Sunni militia west of Baghdad. It was the deadliest attack this year against the Awakening Council, a group of anti-al-Qaeda fighters backed by the United States and Iraqi governments. The Independent of London is reporting Afghan President Hamid Karzai is preparing to announce a timetable for the withdrawal of foreign troops from Afghanistan by 2014. The withdrawal is described in an internal document as, quote, conditions-based and phased. A formal announcement is expected Tuesday at a major international donors conference in Kabul. The news comes as Vice President Joe Biden is backing down from his previous claims that the U.S. will begin a sizable withdrawal next July. In an interview with ABC News, Biden said he now thinks the pullback could entail, quote, as few as a couple of thousand troops. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has unveiled a new round of aid projects to Pakistan. The U.S. will sponsor a number of initiatives, including 2 hydroelectric dams. Funding will come out of a $7.5 billion aid package approved by Congress last year. At a meeting with Pakistan's foreign minister in Islamabad, Clinton addressed widespread Pakistani opposition to the U.S.-backed militarization of Pakistan's conflict with Taliban and al-Qaeda groups.
We know that there is some questioning, even suspicion, about what the United States is doing today, and I can only respond by saying that very clearly we have a commitment that is much broader and deeper than it has ever been, that we expect to start seeing results. It is bipartisan. It is both of the executive branch and the congressional branch in our country, and we are going to continue to work to achieve very tangible results.
Clinton's visit comes as the Pakistani army is facing allegations of committing extrajudicial killings in the restive Swat Valley. According to Human Rights Watch, the Pakistani army has killed 238 Taliban suspects since September. Some of the victims' bodies have been found with signs of torture. A newly revealed videotape shows Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu once openly discussed his intent to attack the Palestinian government, undermine the Oslo peace accords, and manipulate the United States to ensure its backing. The 2001 recording shows Netanyahu meeting with Israeli settlers in the occupied West Bank. Netanyahu was then out of government after serving his first stint in office. Apparently unaware he's being recorded, Netanyahu talks openly of, quote, a broad attack on the Palestinian government, saying, quote, the main thing, first of all, is to hit them. Not just one blow, but blows that are so painful that the price will be too heavy to be borne. Netanyahu also outlines how we would undermine the 1993 Oslo Accords, he says, which established the basis for Israeli-Palestinian peace talks by declaring any West Bank land that Israel wants to retain as, quote, military and security zones. Addressing potential U.S. opposition to Israeli expansionism, Netanyahu says, quote, I know what America is. America is a thing you can move very easily, move it in the right direction. They won't get in the way. A major international conference on global AIDS policy is underway in Austria this week. On Sunday, hundreds of people marched through the conference halls demanding rich nations meet their pledges on universal access to AIDS treatment. Julio Montaigne criticized wealthy countries for failing to meet the UN's Millennium Development Goals.
I cannot hide my profound disappointment and deep frustration with the recently concluded GI and G20 meetings in anywhere else but Canada. By failing to take full responsibility for the Universal Access Pledge, and more importantly, for failing to articulate the next steps to meet not just the 6th MDG, but also all of them, because without universal access, there shall be no MDGs by 2015.
A new study says more than half of the world's poor live in South Asia, while a quarter live in Africa. According to the UN's new multi-dimensional poverty index, there are more poor people in 8 states in India than in all of sub-Saharan Africa. Back in the United States, West Virginia Governor Joe Manchin has appointed his former general counsel, Cart Goodwin, to fill the Senate seat left by the death of longtime Democratic Senator Robert Byrd. Goodwin will serve until a special election is held, likely this year. Goodwin's entry to the Senate could mark a significant boost for efforts to extend unemployment benefits to over 2 million jobless Americans. Republicans, as well as some Democrats, have opposed approving the benefits, citing concerns over the deficit. In his weekly radio address, President Obama singled out Republican opposition.
They say we shouldn't provide unemployment insurance because it costs money. So after years of championing policies that turned a record surplus into a massive deficit, including a tax cut for the wealthiest Americans, they finally decided to make their stand on the backs of the unemployed. They've got no problem spending money on tax breaks for folks at the top who don't need them and didn't even ask for them, but they object to helping folks laid off in this recession who really do need help.
The insurance giant AIG has agreed to a $725 million payment to settle a class-action lawsuit led by 3 Ohio pension funds. Combined with previous claims, AIG will pay out over $1 billion to shareholders who've accused the company of anti-competitive practices, accounting violations, and manipulation of stock prices. A former State Department analyst and his wife have been sentenced after pleading guilty to acting as spies for Cuba. Walter Kendall Myers was sentenced to life in prison, and his wife Gwendolyn Steingraber Myers was sentenced to over 6 years. Both are in their early 70s. In a court statement, Walter Myers said he acted to help Cuba resist the U.S.-led embargo, saying, quote, "We did not intend to hurt any individual American. Our only objective was to help the Cuban people defend their revolution." New York Governor David Paterson has signed a measure that'll end the storage of hundreds of thousands of names of people who were stopped and frisked by police without facing charges. Over 500,000 people were questioned under stop and frisk last year, the vast majority African American and Latino. Paterson said maintaining a database of their names violates basic democratic principles.
It disallows the use of personal data from innocent people who have not done anything wrong. They may be suspicious. They may